Welcome all fans of Mark Ryan, whether you know him from Black Sails or just his long, illustrious career. It's great here to be here talking to you. Just to get things started, how's it going?
Great, great. As I say, I just got back from Europe. I did a fantastic event called Dutch Comic Con, and fantastic turnout. There was about 35,000 people, and I actually enjoy meeting the fans. I love talking to them and finding out what they're watching and what they feel about the shows, whether it's Black Sails, Transformers, or anything else they're involved with, And it's great fun. I like it. I enjoyed it, and so I got back in the other night, and it was spring was just starting there. The tulips were just starting. The daffodils was just starting. Spring was just blooming, and I get to Los Angeles, and of course El Nino arrives, and it's been raining for 3 days. So,
I mean, to just get things started, I did not know you were the voice of Lockdown. I mean, this guy was the most charismatic, badass dude in all the Transformers. It's amazing.
it was great fun to do, and there's stories behind how that came about. But what really happened was I was waiting to go down to shoot in the harbour where we were shooting. I think it was in Detroit, and you know. This is now a decade almost. I've been involved with this franchise with Michael, and I love working with Michael. He's a force of nature, and I was sitting up there thinking, well, what can I do new? What can I do differently? Because on the set, I've done everything. I've tried every voice that you can imagine, and I'm always trying to come up with something different. And as I was sitting there racking my brains and looking at this dialogue, there was an advert came on for Jaguar cars, and it was Ben Kingsley and a bunch of other guys. And it goes, "Why are all the best bad guys in Hollywood films British? Is it a certain sense of style?" And I was sitting there, I went, "Ah!" And so I went, "I'm going to mix that with a touch of Hannibal Lecter." And we'll throw it together and see what happens. And I went to the sound guys downstairs, Peter, my mate Peter, and I said, I'm going to do this really quietly, which was odd because it was in a huge open dock. There was a great big boat there that we'd blown up like the night before or something. And but it was a great big bowl-type dock, enclosed dock, and they have these big speakers on the set so everybody can hear what I'm saying, and I'm wired up with headphones and microphones and stuff. And I was running at the side of the camera car, and Michael was at the side of me because he was going to give me the cue when he wanted me to start the dialogue. And so as I was running along, I just started to whisper into the microphone, Autobots, Decepticons, always making a mess, and then I have to clean it up. And it echoed around the dock like the sound of God. And everybody kind of went, whoa! And Michael looked at me and he went, so I knew I was on the right track. I knew that I was on the right track. It took a bit of, refining, but it was great fun to do. And I like the character because he's different. He's neither an Autobot nor a Decepticon. He's his own free agent, if you like. So I enjoyed playing the part. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I gotta say, it was such a breath of fresh air. This rogue transformer who was just unadulteratedly badass. But just to get things going, I got some questions from the Reddit here. V2 Blast asked, "What shows do you enjoy, and have you been able to follow Black Sails since your departure?" I mean, I know. I wonder as much as he does. What exactly is it that you watch if you do get the time to watch stuff?
I've tried to. Yes, I've seen quite a few of the shows, and I think it's one of the best made productions on television. I mean, if you look at the detail, the boats, the sets, the costumes, the writing, if you look at the actual depth that they've gone into to make it look authentic, it's pretty amazing. It's a pretty incredible thing, that this world that they've created. Toby Stevens is just brilliant. I mean, brilliant. Zach is brilliant. Everybody in the show is really good. And so I have watched a bit of it. I haven't watched all of it. I have to admit I haven't seen all of it because they keep killing off people. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's out there now. So, I guess, everybody knows about some of the people that got killed off.
Yeah.
And it is genuinely difficult because you get to work with these people for an intense, limited time, 6 months, 7 months that we are down there. People train together, work together, all that kind of stuff. And you do become a family. You become very aware of everybody's foibles and everybody's habits. And, you are literally, like Toby and I did one dialogue sequence which was in one scene in the hut or something, in the storage hut, and it was almost 9 minutes long. It was like 8 minutes long or something. So there's he and I learned it like a scene in a play, so we could do it in one take if they wanted to do that. And that takes a lot of trust and faith in your fellow actor that he's going to be there and pick it up and push it and drag the scene around, and that brings you close. And so whenever I'm watching these stuff, I'm like, oh no, don't kill that character, no, don't do that, So you genuinely become close, and as we did, and the show is a phenomena. I mean, that's all I can say.
Right. Eustace Chappis says, please tell him from a fellow Yorkshireman that he did a phenomenal job in Black Sails, and I did indeed shed a tear, as well as I, when he met his demise on the show. My question would be, what was his favorite scene to shoot as Mr. Gates?
Oh, I had so many. I mean, I was blessed with brilliant writing. I think the one that's the No Monuments speech, where we're talking about our history together, Flint and I, is one of my favourite scenes, and I get to talk about, there are no monuments in this life. That was just, it was a beautifully written piece of dialogue. And so that was one of my favourite scenes. I also enjoyed all the scenes with Billy Bones. I also enjoyed, funnily enough, the scene where we're all in the room negotiating with Jack Rackham. And if I have any regrets, I would like to have done more of those types of scenes. I'd like to work with Schmitzy, Toby Schmitz, and those guys. I would like to have had a little bit more time to work those types of scenes, then ensemble types of scenes. Right. And because everybody's good. There's no weak link in it. You know what I mean? So wherever you toss a dialogue ball to, somebody's going to pick it up and send it right back to you. And that keeps the scenes alive. It keeps them, engrossing, and you want to watch and see what's happening next. So I had many, many scenes. I had the scene I just talked about in the storage hut. That was a great scene. The one where I have to tell him that I don't think I can captain the Ranger was a good one of my favourite scenes. I like the funny scenes as well with Billy Bones, with Big Tom. I can't think of a scene that wasn't where I didn't go, that's good. I like the scene in the bar where Dufresne comes to me and talks to me about, am I going to betray Flint? That was it's an interesting, moving, strange scene to do. So challenging stuff for television, but very good, well-made product, without doubt.
Absolutely. Tupac fan asks, do any actors have any troubles with lines or slip-ups, or just deliver their lines in their own way?
Well, going back to our fellow Yorkshireman there, because I have a Yorkshire accent, it's funny, I was recently in London having meetings with folks, and somebody who won't be named in the business said to me, you have not lost, how long have you been in Los Angeles? I said 20 odd years, and they said, you haven't lost your accent at all, you still have a Yorkshire accent, how did you do that on purpose? I said, no, it's just stuck, but if I'm playing a character, I'll test and adjust to make an accent change, obviously. And coming from a musical background, I think that helps a lot when you're talking about rhythm and cadence and pitch for voices and accents. And so there was a couple of lines in Black Sails where the Yorkshireisms, I thought, fitted the way that the lines tripped out rather than the way they'd been written. So I did change a couple of words here and there, but not a lot, to be honest with you. And at one point, somebody did come to me on the set, one of the ADs, and said, you're the only person that's allowed to change your dialogue. Why is that? And I said, well, because it's the natural flow of the Yorkshire accent, and it would sound awkward if I said it a different way. So you do occasionally, you get stuck on the odd word or the odd phrase, just jars, and it won't come out of your mouth the right way, so you sometimes have to just massage it in a slightly different way, but for the most part it is as it's written.
Yeah, and we're going to put a pin in that because we'll come back to that for Street for your character with that. But Thomas Cohen would like to know, are you surprised, and we touched on this a little bit already, but are you surprised by the show's success in terms of fans and critics alike?
No. And I don't mean that, usually people go, oh, yes. No, I genuinely thought there's a couple of times in my life when I've been involved with something and I've gone, this is different and it's going to catch an audience. One was Robin of Sherwood in the 80s, where I think we all knew that this was different and special and was going to break new ground for television, not just in the UK but around the world, and it did. And I remember going out to dinner with the guys just before the last episode that we filmed, and we all I took everybody out to dinner, and I said, this show's going to be special. So remember your friendships, remember your relationships here, because in 30 years' time, when you're doing fan conventions or you're doing interviews and you've forgotten all about Black Sails, somebody's going to come up to you and go, do you understand that show changed my life? Do you understand what an effect that had on me as a young person? So don't be surprised when that happens. And your friendships here will be the most important thing that you will take with you from this adventure that we're having. And I felt it then, and I felt it now. So that's how I feel about it.
Right. Yeah. And you just mentioned some very, I think, pertinent things, which is from one aspect, when shows like The Walking Dead and like where they talk about it afterwards, people see that those cast members are like a family. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I guess from what you're telling me, that it was the same type of situation on Black Sails with the cast, because it's such an intensive process.
It is, and it's physically and mentally challenging. I mean, you're 4 o'clock in the morning. We were shooting some of the night scenes on a tank, in up the road from Cape Town Airport, being hosed down with freezing cold water. You know what I mean? You have to physically not only still have your acting together and your lines still in your head, but your hands may be cold, you may be dripping wet, and all that kind of stuff. It bonds you. It's a bonding experience because you're so reliant on everybody else in the show that if you drop the ball or you toss the ball this way, dialogue that way, somebody's going to pick it up. And yes, it bonds you together. And I felt that very much on Black Sails for sure.
And the second thing, which was, it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of the show. I've sold, I don't know how many people at college and just family friends about like, hey, listen, you got to watch this show. And then when they watch it, they come back to me and they're like, wow, you're right, And the show, I think the intense emotions behind it and how committed it is to portraying that time period and the characters behind it, I think. And the idea of leaving a legacy, like Toby Smith's character, about like leaving that name, that pirate name, I think that's something that is pertinent to today about having a legacy.
Well, yeah. And I think it goes, what we do in life echoes through eternity. What we do in this business is try to create personalities and characters that people can see themselves in. And it reflects a part of their desires. Now, I'm extremely fortunate and lucky, and I say this at conventions all the time. In my life, I've been a merry man, an honorary knight of the round table. I've been a pirate. I've been several giant alien robots. I've been Che Guevara. I've been all these different characters that I get, Russian gangsters. I get to be all these characters and play them. And express a part of my personality that way. Intrinsically, it's still me expressing my personality through that character. And what the audience reacts to is they either like the character or they see themselves in the character, and they get emotionally engaged and attached to that character, that person, that way, that personality, the way that they express themselves. And that will outlive us all. That will live for the next 50 years in television history. So I'm always aware of leaving that behind. I've just recorded a thing called Knights of the Apocalypse of Robin of Sherwood in the UK, which is an audio version of the last script that Richard Carpenter wrote for the show. And we all recorded it. Jason Connery, Michael Prey, Judy Trott, Nick Grace, Clivey Mantle, Ray Winston, everybody came in. And we immediately slipped back into the characters that we were in the show. And here we are 30-odd years later. And at this convention, Dutch Comic Con I was just at, people coming up to me and going, that show changed my life. That got me on thinking about spirituality in a different way, my relationship to the forest and to animals and all the different, aspects of what that show was about. Black Sails will be the same.
Yeah, that's it got me thinking about legacy, what you leave behind. Bertoldo adds, I think he was one of the greatest characters in season one, which again I agree with. Sadly, he passed away too soon. And I think we already talked about this. If you wanted more time in the show, and I know you said that you would have liked to have interacted with a bit more of the characters that are on there and the actors.
Yeah, I mean, I felt, and I still feel, and it's no big secret. I mean, I felt that it was too early in the cycle of the show to get rid of the character. Gates, the character himself, is very human. And he's flawed, like all human beings are, and he has a warmth that all human beings have. Yes, he's cunning, and yes, he has to manage all of these disparate and desperate people and drives, and certainly as the friend of Flint, the only friend.
Yeah.
And there was a great speech that ended up on the cutting room floor. I mean, a lot of stuff does, about our friendship, which ended up not ending up in the show, which was a wonderful little speech about how we've been friends, and he was my only friend, and I was his only friend, and all that kind of stuff. And I think a show needs that. They need a vehicle, a personality vehicle, to usher them in who is not necessarily duplicitous and vicious, confused, or whatever. And I thought Gates filled that part of the psyche of the show, and so I think there was a little bit more they could have done with him within it. But hey ho, it is what it is. I enjoyed every minute of it, and still do. So I'm very proud of the character. I'm very proud of the way I worked with the other actors, and I'm really pleased that they've had 4 seasons of this. Good luck to them.
Yeah, seriously. You've already started on my next question, which is from me, which is Gates had so much of potential considering he wasn't from the book. Was there anything that you brought to the character that wasn't already within the script?
Well, it was interesting because they wanted to age me up a little bit and make me sort of mid-60s, so they actually put plastic stuff on my eyes to wrinkle my eyes more and all that kind of stuff. And we talked about the whole fast knuckles and all that kind of stuff, which now have become sort of like a legend. And we were going to have this whole thing of having the tattoo on the back of the head, which John asked me about it. And originally we were going to put it on the top of my head there, but nobody could see it, so we ended up putting it on the back. And he said, "Why do you want that?" And I said, "It's just a personal nod to the spiritual concept of the Knights Templar and the real pirates, the secret societies of which the privateers and the pirates grew from." And so it was one of those subliminal messages in the show, which when you go away and you think about a character like I did with Nazir, you have to dig into this and go find some of that history, the assassins and the relationship to the Templars and all that sticky, bloody history, and try and bring it out within the character, and sometimes those icons work. So that for me was very important, having the physical stamps on my body that showed that this man had been at sea for a long time. He was a wily, clever operator, and he brought that warmth and humanity to the character. It was that was important to me to bring out.
So basically, when are we getting the spin-off of the spin-off?
I don't know. I mean, I've often wondered what they would do with the character. I think in a way they created a bit of a Frankenstein. I think because at one of the conventions there were people going, is Gates dead with question marks on things, and when you're bringing him back and all that kind of stuff. And I was pleasantly, obviously surprised and happy that people took to the character that much. But we joke about it a lot every time I talk to Toby via email. I say I'm still haunting the poop deck or pooping on quite sure which way round it is, and they joke about it and say, "No, you're still here, mate. No, you know what I mean. You're still haunting the boat." So I had no idea what they could or might do with the character at a later date, but I don't know. I don't know how they can come back from that. So
it is cool though, because I don't know if you've seen some of the recent episodes, but in season 3 they've started mentioning your character a lot more as like the first sacrifice made for Nassau and for that treasure chest that they're carrying. So it's, at least from a viewer standpoint who was a fan of your character, it's really great to see that you left this stamp on the show and that you left this legacy that ties into Treasure Island.
Wow, I didn't know that. I haven't seen season 3, so you're telling me something that I'm unaware of, that they're still talking about the character. I know they did in season 2, but I didn't know they were still talking about it in season 3. And the idea of the death, which was, I mean, we tried. There was several ways of ending this. Trust me, that was discussed, and the way that he finally met his demise was to show that Flint was totally obsessed. He would kill the one man who was his friend, who had defended him and saved him, actually, in many ways, and been there with him. He was willing to kill that one man who was his friend to reach this insane goal. And so as that, as a character cipher that served a purpose in the show, he was very successful.
Awesome. There's rumors, there's rumblings that the show was on like a 6-season track. Is there any credence to that, or?
I honestly don't know. I mean, obviously, I haven't been in touch with anybody from the production for a couple of years, so I don't know. But I would imagine, with the size of the commitment, the production that they've got down there, building the boats in the tank, and the building of Nassau, and the other things that they've built down there at Cape Town Film Studios, which are fantastic. I mean, great, really, really good. I really don't know what their plan would be. I can only imagine that they've got to go up to Treasure Island. So, presumably what they'll do is they've now got Blackbearded, Big Ray Stevens, who I worked with on King Arthur. He was Dagonet in King Arthur. They gave him the biggest sword I think I've ever seen. Very, very nice. Very nice fella. Lovely guy to work with. And I would imagine that there's at least another couple of seasons. I know they're doing 4 now.
Yeah, they do.
So what are the rumors? That they're doing 6 or 7?
That 6 is a rumor that's on the Reddit. I mean, from what I'm reading.
I can only imagine that they will. I mean, there's a big investment there. And if the show has got legs and they keep the writing up to the standard and the production values up to the standard, which Michael Bay will make sure that they do, because Michael Bay is famous for that, and his production values are extraordinary, then I would imagine that, they certainly could go 6 or 7. I don't see why not. Maybe they'll bring me back in season 12 or something. That's
it. It's on the record. You're coming back. That's what's happening. Have you gotten a chance to play like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which has that pirate, because you've done voices for Transformers, the video game. So have you gotten a chance to play any video games, or?
No, I very rarely get a chance to do that, but I know a lot about it because when I was studying for Robin at Sherwood, I mean, there was a link between the assassins, the cult of the assassins, that comes from the word hashishim or hashishian, meaning, they smoke hashish before the battles and all that kind of stuff. And the old man the mountain had this, his version of heaven. And so there's a whole linkage between the spiritual side of the cult of the assassins and the Knights Templar. They traded together, they swapped ideas, spiritual ideas, navigational aids like the astrolabe, medical ideas like the hospital has got a lot of, regarding healing wounds from the assassins and vice versa. So to me, that whole naval tradition as well that came out of this with the Templars' fleets, then turning that into, because they were the people that knew how to navigate the oceans. So when the whole concept of the privateers and Elizabeth I turned them loose on the oceans of the world, who did she go to? She went to the secret societies that already had the wherewithal, the knowledge, the ships, the manpower to go to sea around the world and wage war. And so that linkage is historically very strong to me anyway. It's pretty obvious.
Time to transition into Street. You transitioned from a pirate quartermaster to a Russian mobster in this film. Could you just give a little bit about the film and the character that you portray?
Well, the character is a Russian gangster who is called Yuri, who is running an underground fight club, if you like, and business, where people basically go and MMA champions go. It's an underground business where he's running this business. And so whenever you're given a bad guy to play, you can either, make him one-dimensional, but the best and caricatures, which I didn't want to do. When you look at it again, I went, there's layers upon layers in a character which you have to pull out. So making him just evil and bad, dangerous, that's fun to play. But you've also got to get an audience to come in with you and go, what is this man thinking? What is What is he doing? Why is he doing this? And so I went away and did a lot of research. Some years ago, there was a film called Eastern Promises, and Viggo Mortensen played this gangster. And so I got that out again, and I started watching not the outtakes, the background of how he learned to do this. And there was a lot of very interesting information about how he went off to Russia and talked to gangsters and, got their body language and the way that they talk and the tattoos and stuff like that. And I really got into it in the sense of, well, not just is he a gangster, but what sort of man is this? What sort of character is this? And the best sorts of characters who are bad guys are the ones that you don't really know where his side is going to step. If you look at Flint in Black Sails, it's the same thing. You know he's a little bit crazy and obsessed, but you don't know what he's going to do next. And so I wanted to bring an element of that to Yuri, and I was very, very happy to be surrounded by some very good actors and some real MMA fighters who were great fun to work with. And Bradford Mays was the director, and he basically let me bring full reign to it. That's the other thing about independent film. You can bring your own stuff to it, and you can make some changes to the characters. And you can only threaten to kill somebody, half a dozen times before it wears thin. So I came up with some new threats.
Yeah. That was so awesome what you brought to the character.
Thank you. It was great fun to play. And again, there has to be that doorway for an audience into even the bad guy that you go, there's a reason why he's like this. And it was interesting to me because we had several real Russian people on the set, both as playing extras and characters and stuff like that. And one of them came up to me during the course of the filming and said, where in Russia you come from? And I went, I don't come from Russia. She said, no, you have Moscow accent. Where are you from? Where do you live? I said, I live in Los Angeles. I'm from Yorkshire. Doncaster, Yorkshire. She went, no, you have Moscow accent. So I went, she went away, came back. A little bit later on, somebody else came up and went, so how long have you been in the United States? And I went, I've lived in LA for 20 years. And, oh, sorry, I thought you were Russian. No, I'm not. I'm from. So I was pleading my case, and finally, one of the girls came up to me and she said, "We worked it out. You are KGB." So I guess it worked.
I mean, to be honest, considering your history and all your varied jobs, I wouldn't put it past you. But, that being said, you got the accent down, and the film itself seems to have gotten the fighting down pretty much to a T. Could you explain kind of how the development team and all of them were able to accomplish that?
A lot of training. I mean, these guys worked on these fights for ages. And again, a lot of the guys that you've got in there, John Hannigan, these are all champion fighters. You've got some real MMA top guys there. And so it was fantastic to have them in the fights, as well as some of them, giving advice and helping everybody else put the fights together. I mean, these guys are pretty dangerous people, Matt Mitrione and all those guys there, and lovely. I suppose if you get thumped for a living and you're thumping other people, you can afford to be nice, around the set.
Yeah. So that answers the next one, which was going to be how it was working with them. I half expected you to pick up like a sword at some point, because I know you've done like training in that field. Just where did that happen in your career, that you learned how to sword fight?
Swords have been in my life since I was a very young boy. I mean, I was making knives and throwing knives and stuff and swords at school. I made my first wooden bokken, which is a wooden Japanese katana-style sword, at school. I don't know why. My nature. And so I've been involved with bladed stuff since I was a kid. And my first real sword teacher was a man called Michael J. He was a pilot for British Airways, and he's like an 8th Dan Iaido expert, which is the Japanese sword form with the katana, which is a kata form of cuts and blocks and parries, and just the art of moving a katana Japanese sword. And I just went from there, really. Then Robin Assured came along, and I did nothing for 3 years but ride horses, loose arrows at people, and do two-handed sword fights. I actually have the sword sitting on my fireplace right there. So from rubbing the shield, plus several others that I've acquired along the way. But so yeah, swords have been part of my life since I was very young.
So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask for one of those swords. If you could just send it to me, that'd be great. What I'm getting from you is there's a sensibility that you carry between each character you portray, and that it gives depth to it. And what, in your opinion, makes a Black Sails fan a fan of Street? Like, what will Black Sails fans enjoy about Street?
Oh, I think there's an edge to Street, which is a very human story. Again, at the end of the day, it's all about following the human stories. The characters have to be accessible, and you have to warm to them or want to fight with them and be a part of this. It's almost a tribal thing. I've talked to fans about this because to me it's very... Look, I'm a fan. I grew up with Star Trek, The Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, and Land of the Giants, and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I was a fan of all of those shows. And so, when I go to conventions and I see these guys, I go and tell them that. And go, when I was a kid, this was my favourite show. And I think it's a tribal thing. It's not a family thing in the sense that, you're related. You recognise within the characters and other people that follow the show certain intrinsic qualities, certain values that you all recognise within you, both yourself and the characters that you're watching. And in the 21st century, yes, we live in a very sanitized world where most people are sitting at home driving their, Toyota Camrys or, BMW or whatever, and they're not really going to get a chance to jump on a boat and sail around the world and live free and break rules and, have that heroic moment. And but something within their psyche, within their soul, resonates, whether it's Robin Hood, King Arthur, or pirates, Black Sails, whatever. There's something about the primal drive of adventure and challenge and, that we don't really have now in the 21st century that attracts people, and it's a tribal feeling. People watch it as a tribe, and the audience is linked somehow psychically in supporting their favourite character or the whole ensemble, and it's a phenomena. It's a human phenomenon. We just resonate that way to certain shows.
While I'm talking to you, it's just so hard to fathom how much you've done in your career. I mean, from you're an author, you've got these comics, because I'm a huge comic reader. You got these comics, you got these books, you have your acting career, you have your theater career, you have your sword fighting, you have your sword training, and you were in the military and a private investigator?
I've had my PI license in California, I guess, now for about a decade. So, yeah, I know. We call it being the grey man. It's been the ability to... it's almost a Jedi skill. You don't see me. You don't recognise that I'm here. And so, it was been a very useful and interesting adventure on that side of my life. So, but on the other hand, again, I've written 2 books about the psychology of tarot cards. Greenwood Tarot was the first one, and Wildwood was the next, which is a bestseller. There's an app out there as well. And it's an effort to try and understand the human psyche. The tarot cards are a map of the human mind, psyche, soul, however you want to perceive it. And it's a map that most people can access. And I found it fascinating working on both the books with John Matthews. So, the last one I was with John. So, and so it was a learning curve for me. I hope people read them, and I hope that they get value out of them. That's all I can say.
The next question we have, but I feel like after this discussion, I feel like I know what your answer is going to be. It was to be, what was your favorite character? But I have a feeling that you just can't pick. Like, that's what I'm going to gather from you, from what you've said so far.
Wow, I've been extremely lucky. Again, it's all about being fortunate. I believe that you create your own opportunities and your own reality. But I've been offered so many fulfilling chances to do things. I played John Dickinson in 1776 here in Los Angeles. And again, that was a great character. I played Neville I played Gordon in Neville's Island down at the Globe Theatre in San Diego. I've been offered so many interesting, twisted, strange, characters to try and play psychologically. that it's difficult to choose. I mean, the ones that have affected my career, I can tell you. Obviously, playing McGaldy was a break, but then along came Che Guevara, which I got to play for almost 2 years in the West End and Evita, and that role changed my life. I did a film then called Who Dares Wins about the Iranian embassy siege, and then along came Robin of Sherwood. So for 3 years I was Nazir, the very first Muslim merry man ever written into a Robin of Sherwood legend, and he's now become an accepted part of the legend. I can't even wrap my head around that an 800, 900-year-old legend has added a character in that I played in a TV show. That's weird, but it's very fulfilling. Obviously, the whole slew of theatre characters that I've played throughout my time here in Los Angeles, but again, shows. I toured with Eric Idle. We did Eric Idle Exploits Monty Python. So you're looking at one of the three men that's ever stood on the stage of Carnegie Hall wearing a green sparkly dress and singing "Sit on My Face and Tell Me That You Love Me" with Eric Idle. Not many people can say that. So, yes, I think obviously Gates, when you get to this mature state of one's career, if I can put it that way, having had nearly 40 years in this business now, it'll be 40 years maybe next year, I can't remember, you are just very grateful when a character like Gates comes along and you can imbue him with some of the knowledge and hopefully wisdom that you've picked up along the way, and let the character speak for you. And so Gates obviously is going to be a character which is going to resonate in my head for many years to come. But also, Lockdown, Bumblebee, Jetfire, behold the glory of Jetfire, also are very much, in the forefront of my psyche. So, I love them all.
I didn't notice this until I went back and watched it. I was a huge fan of Community. And you were on like a bit part for like the constables, I saw you on Community. Like, what was that? How did that happen?
It happened because they wanted to do sort of a Dr. Spacetime, Inspector Spacetime, which was a sort of a takeoff of Doctor Who. Yeah. And because the whole episodes that they were shooting were about being at a comic convention, when they called me in they said, "You do a lot of these conventions. Why?" And I said, "Well, because I'm a geek. I love talking fans, but also I like the whole atmosphere of it's a steam valve. It's a social steam valve. People can go and get dressed up as Catwoman, and that's just the boys, or whoever, Iron Man or whatever, and they be Batman for the weekend. It can be whoever they want, and it's a social steam valve for people to express something again within their personality that they probably don't get a chance to normally. And so for me, I've always enjoyed them, and they said, "Well, would you be interested in this?" And I said, "Of course, I've never been in Doctor Who. This is the nearest I'm going to get, would be a companion, Constable Edmund, to Inspector Spacetime." So I was, fighting off the Blorgons. Fantastic. Yes, it was just a little cough and a spit, but again, it was just great fun to do for me. It was a nod to Doctor Who and all my pals that were Doctor Who's, which I'll never get to do Doctor Who, but it was, for me, it was like a salute to all the people I knew, like John Pertwee and in Kota, funnily enough. We've got Colin Baker is in the Robin of Sherwood Knights of the Apocalypse episode, and all the guys that I know from Doctor Who, that have been involved with that over the years. So to me, it was like a well done, chaps. Salute to them.
Yeah, so you're telling me you're not going to be in Doctor Who, but now I'm just believing that you are, because with everything you've done, I think that's next, right?
Absolutely. I'd love to do a Doctor
Who. So what's next?
I have just finished a film called Anybody Will Do, which we shot in Montana. I was playing the father of a girl, and he's a trapper and a tracker, and she goes up into the mountains guiding a man hell-bent on revenge, basically. I don't want to give the plot of the film away, but it was fantastic to be involved with it, and the film hopefully will look spectacular. We filmed in Nevada City in Montana, which is a real old operating mining town. And again, the cast was great. Everybody was fun to work with. So that will be out hopefully later on this year. Knights of the Apocalypse, which is the audio I talked about, that will be out later this year. What else have I got? I'm working on another book, follow up to Wildwood Tarot.
Nice.
And I've got another couple of films that I've sort of been we're discussing, which I may do during the course of the summer. So busy at the moment.
Yeah. So, and then add, Doctor Who, Gates coming back as a ghost. So I'm excited for all these things.
Gates Ghost. Hashtag Gates Ghost, man. All those Black Sails fans out
I'm getting it going. I'm starting it.
Gates Ghost. The fantastic thing for me, because the show is just beginning to air in Europe, was people came from all over Germany, the Netherlands, everywhere you can think of. Some of them dressed up as Vane, and as, in fact, this has happened as well at Cardiff Comic Con. All these cosplayers now are dressing up as all the characters from Black Sails, and there they were. And I'm more than happy to have my picture taken with them because I'm very proud of the show. So if you go online, you will see cosplayers from all over Europe dressing up as Vane and Flynn and Billy Bones and the female characters as well, Adele and everybody else turning up with these outfits. It's great. It's great.
Well, I just want to say again, thank you for this experience. Thank you for your what you've brought to cinema and theater and PI investigating. And
read the book.
Absolutely, it's in my Amazon cart. I'm excited. Absolutely excited. And everyone, look forward to Street. It's coming to Walmart and Netflix, which is that's an awesome platform, at least from what I gather.
Walmart, fantastic. And just a quick spin-off on that quickly about the military side of things. One of the other projects I'm involved with is a film called Out of the Fight, which is about post-traumatic stress disorder for soldiers coming back at the moment. This is, I misheard this when I heard this in Kentucky originally. I thought he said there was 2 veterans a day commit suicide. There's actually at the moment, one of the top figures is 22 veterans commit suicide in the United States every day.
Wow.
So this film is to raise awareness about post-traumatic stress disorder and our vets that are coming back that need help, support emotionally and physically as well. And that hopefully is going to get shot this year. It's called Out of the Fight, and I'm involved. I've been cast in the film, and I'm looking forward to doing that film. As a veteran myself, I understand, and I hope that people get behind it and it gets financed and the whole thing takes off. We need to take care of these guys. We spend a lot of money sending them off around the world to defend us. We need to spend a bit of money when they come back and they need help. We need to spend that money.
I absolutely agree. My dad is a veteran, so I absolutely agree with that. So thank you. It was awesome talking to you, and to all the fans, look forward to more of his work. Until next time.
Thank you very much indeed, Keanu, and we'll see you again, no doubt. Take it easy. Bless you all.